Hey guys, kicking off 2025 with a fun little hack and slash dungeon crawler that popped up in most people's Steam recommendation around November of 2024, Atlyss. I know it's a staple for any RPG at this point, but I really wanted to talk about the character creator. It's well, it's something alright. Depending on what direction you want to go with your character, you can do cute or just be downright lewd. Though you can make some goofy characters with odd proportions and sizes, but we all know just by looking at this what everyone is thinking. Though the races are very unique, instead of your usual furry bait, you actually have some customization here that can make your characters look all sort of ways. From a dog, to a rabbit, to a fox thing. Either way, it's pretty unique thanks to its art style. Graphics have been a big concern, but I think this art style continues onward from the character creation into the world itself. You have this sort of PS1 Dreamcast-era graphics that really leave me with this feeling that in another universe, the SEGA we knew and loved could have made something like this. The main hub area has a lot of platforming with this sort of forest temple ruins atmosphere I think is nailed really well here. The distant fog that surrounds a secluded section of what I can assume is a mountainous forest gives a lot of room for the imagination on where exactly this area is. And honestly, I love when games do this. Show less, tell even less, and let the world building have a sense of mysticism to it, which gives you the same feeling older nostalgic titles might have on consoles you had growing up, like Spyro or Crash, with these disconnected areas that are all part of the same world. Music from Atlyss reminds me a lot of Phantasy Star Online, as well as some of the other SEGA titles, with its atmospheric electronic beats. In fact, I got the music playing in the background of the video right now, and it was also in the introduction. It really does lead to this whole style Atlyss is trying to achieve. A nostalgic trip of not how you may remember it, but how it might have felt during that time in your life growing up on similar games, whether that's how it was or not. The combat and dungeon exploration is very similar to the older Zelda titles, with different rooms. Personally, I find the extra added detail with each level as you go deeper inside the dungeon, it's a really nice touch. Walls will become sinister in color, as well as the water and the enemies changing to match. You leave behind these cute slimes and spirits that you meet earlier on in the forest and start getting these more deadlier enemies. The art style doesn't change much, but I do find the little details pretty cool when it comes to different enemy types, even if it's sometimes just a color palette swap or if you added details on the character itself. That's not even counting one of my favorite areas in the game so far, which is like this outside dungeon. A lot of platforming up to the highest level to complete a quest while grinding for that special loot is quite different than the first area you're introduced to. And in games like this, having that switch be up front instead of subtle is something unique, maybe not to Atlyss itself, but to this era of games. Dashing around in combat between parrying and learning how each weapon functions, not only in its style, but complementing a chosen class is what gives it depth for the more action side of the game. And it's pretty sweet learning the natural combos from your weapon swings and abilities, and what is good against which enemy types, and how to maximize farming AoE or in dire situation. Especially as Mystic, I really love casting spells. The world in general has a mystery, and as you're talking to some of the really well designed characters, you will slowly find out more as time goes on. And as someone who loves the environmental storytelling along with vague information thanks to Dark Souls, this felt like such a breath of fresh air in the current climate of heavily story focused RPGs, with open world titles that tell you everything at every moment. And can it be a turnoff? Sure, yeah. But personally, I think it's pretty cool. I want to say one more thing. This game is in early access, but the developers are really actively working towards more content and are very communicative with the community so far. So, if you like older dungeon crawlers that aren't a realistic, brutal approach and miss this era of games, pick up Atlyss on Steam. I know I didn't regret grabbing it, and I don't think you guys will either.